Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. Here you will learn all things related to healing from divorce, mind, body, and spirit, so you can create a beautiful new life filled with happiness. I'm Rachel Ruby, author of Divorce to Bliss, divorce coach, speaker, and attorney, and I'm so glad you found me here. Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. I'm Rachel Ruby, and this is the Sex After Divorce series, where I will be speaking with several relationship and sex experts who are the top experts in their field when it comes to understanding sexuality, sensuality, intimacy, body perception, arousal, and the fear of having sex after divorce and how it's related to all of those things. We will dive into issues that will help women and men better understand their bodies so they can get excited about future intimate relationships and have happy sex lives after divorce. My guest today is Janet Farnsworth, and we're going to be talking about the science of body perception and how it affects healing. Janet is a body empowerment and intimacy coach and the founder of Ready for Intimacy, which is a groundbreaking, movement-based spiritual transformation system to help women feel confident in their bodies so they can enjoy passionate, connected, and soul-satisfying intimacy. Janet is also the 2-time best-selling author of Love Your Body, the guide to stop making your body a battleground, and Your Body is Your Superpower. Janet has spent 30 years supporting thousands of women heal through many different types of body trauma. She now travels the globe speaking about the miracle of every body. So she uplifts women to end body criticism once and for all so they can have the deep, soulful relationships that they deserve. So welcome, Janet, to the podcast. So happy to have you here.
It is so good to be here. I love this topic. I am thrilled that you are doing it. I feel like it is key to so many parts of our lives. So thank you.
You're welcome. And yes, and you are the perfect person to be here to discuss this with. So let's jump in. I'm excited. Let's talk about body perception. And as you know, when children are young, they don't really have any issues with body perception, right? But especially for young girls, as they mature and go through the growing phases, it becomes an issue. And what are the sources of body perception from a young age? And how do these sources shape the body image beliefs as a girl matures?
Thank you so much for this question. I feel that it is fundamental because one of the things that I talk about is how we perceive our bodies is how we perceive ourselves. And we don't get to have a self without a body. So this question of how we are in relationship with our bodies really becomes a kind of benchmark for how we're in relationships in our lives, starting with ourselves. So perception, body perception first, the very word is, it's double-sided. Because one of the things that happens clearly is that we grow and we get to a certain point when we start to define ourselves by the people around us. I'll talk about that in a minute. But what we think our bodies is becomes caught in thinking it's what it looks like. So rather than what is actually the truth, which is that actually our bodies are in fact, the experiences of ourselves. It is the way that we navigate any moment is literally through this physical reality. But we get stuck in thinking that our bodies are this appearance. And that we know is reinforced every day more and more than ever with social media, with the media in general, magazines, movies, that whole external perception of what bodies look like. And here's the piece, and that, we talked a little bit about coming into a little bit more of the science of it. But one thing that's important, that it is critical to understand in terms of how we learn to think about our bodies is how we learn to think about ourselves is actually a social experience. So we're not born thinking we're anything. We don't come out thinking I'm a really good cook. We find out we're a good cook because we make food that people like, or we're funny because we make people laugh, or equally, our perception of ourselves as beautiful or sexy is because of what we see the world around us tells beautiful and sexy is. So it's a critical piece to understand that we are social beings who come to define ourselves by what's around us.
Yeah.
Combine that with we're also oriented to be visual creatures. And this is, again, a little bit of the science we're just going to go right into, which is over evolution, our perception of vision was far and away the most important one. So that when we saw a danger, a tiger, a mile away and we reacted, we lived a lot more than if we waited until we smelled it. So we're oriented to what we see. And so just right away, if you take those two pieces, that we define ourselves by the people around us, by what we see, we've already now created this construct that we're kind of stuck in, that we think our bodies are what they look like, rather than that they are the experience of ourselves. So we got to get off that train right from the beginning to have an entirely new relationship. And by the way, I love your podcast, After Divorce, because for so many of us, myself included, divorce can become an opportunity to become a whole new person. You can redefine yourself. You can step into this. Okay, so whether or not it was by choice or not, it's it's a death of something, right? At least identity. Mm-hmm. And now who am I? Well, I'm here to wave the flag and say one way that you are is not how you look. Now, there's still something to say about being desirable, being beautiful, the feminine art of adornment and being attractive and adored. It's not to challenge that. It's to challenge and invite stepping off of that track, which limits us into thinking that I can only be desirable, beautiful, sexy, or attractive if I'm size 2, or I don't have wrinkles, or my big thing is collagen in my skin. Like if I have wrinkles anywhere, that's it. My sex life is over. So that's the first thing I would say about perception.
Yeah. Well, that brings up so many things. And yes, I mean, I do speak a lot about taking this experience, this divorce, this death, as you put it, which I referred to as well, of the entity. And I always say it's this we, and then it becomes a me. And you have to discover who that person is, because you might think you know that person, but you don't truly know who you are as just yourself. You know who you are as part of a we. So I think a lot of these things with the perceptions and feeling, and am I sexy? Am I, beautiful? Is someone going to want me? Taking this a step further, how does negative body perception affect the ability to create positive changes in the healing process within the self?
I love this question. And, when I hear it, I hear these two questions or two answers. And I'll tell you the second one first.
Okay.
And that is, when I heard you ask that, I actually thought you were asking what positive experience comes out of our negative experience. And I think that in some wild way, just as we were discussing about how divorce is an opportunity to discover what's that I from we, so too is this very topic of body perception and body image, an opportunity to reacquaint yourself with your body. Yeah. And, if you were lucky enough to have a partner that loved your body or that you had good sexual relationships with, great. And if you were, like so many women I work with, actually a survivor of someone who told you either had to lose weight or you were unattractive, or someone recently told me that her husband said she didn't do sex good on the night of their wedding. So whatever your experience is, in this refinement of being interested in how you relate to your body is such an exquisite opportunity to explore how to relate to yourself. And I always, my trajectory has gone from being a psychotherapist to a somatic therapist to a body confidence coach to an intimacy coach, because I personally believe that how we experience our sexuality and our intimate lives is the most concentrated version of how we can experience ourselves. And so it's like, boy, to really be able to show up to the questions of how am I when I have my clothes off, or what's coming up and what do I want and what do I need? These are marvelous opportunities. These are springboards into having better life than you've ever had before. That's the second answer to the question.
Okay.
The first one is, how do negative experiences affect us is just the opposite of that, right? That when we are still bound by our perception of ourselves as being too fat or too thin, or too old or whatever, too or not enough of, it's not just that we know we're suffering, because obviously the answer is, well, we're suffering. It's also that we are limiting ourselves. We cut ourselves off from the very thing that's actually guiding us in to the best relationship, which I represent is your physical body. Your physical body and your experience of your physical body, the sensations that you have, that gut instinct, that's the best GPS you ever going to get for your next relationship, whether or not it's with you or with somebody else, right? It's like, feel really good.
So can you give an example maybe of some steps? I mean, I know in my own healing journey, I'll just kind of get off the little track for a second. The last few years of my marriage, I didn't want to have sex anymore with him. And I just kind of, went into my little snail shell. And I was told multiple times that I was unable to be intimate, that I was incapable of pleasing a man or myself, that I was, just incapable of having a sexual relationship. And so being a strong, confident woman my whole life, I knew that wasn't true. But when the divorce happened and I became the me, and I was already working on myself before I split, I was doing a lot of healing work before. And that was one of the parts I had to work really hard on, because although I knew, and I know that I'm strong and confident, and I knew that wasn't true, it still affected me a great deal. And so I had to work really hard on that. And the great news is that I got through that and got past that. And, I now know, of course, that I don't have any issues in that department. And it just is the right partner that, helps you to be the most intimate, the best, the most loving, caring version of you. And you want to share that with somebody. So back to the question, how does a woman, if she is getting out of a marriage and maybe she's been made to feel this way, or maybe she's made herself feel this way, maybe she stopped taking care of herself and she just, doesn't look like she used to, or whatever it is, whatever thing she feels about her looks or what she's been told, or a combination of the two, how does she start to shed that falseness about her body and embrace who she really is and love herself?
Well, but thank you for that question. I hear you describe your own experience, and I just feel, because of the women that I've worked with as well, this like gut punch, it is it's so painful when this most private, intimate, and when, that whole expression of intimacy, into me you see, we are most vulnerable in intimacy. I mean, literally, the female body, we are being come into. And so in this place of our most deep vulnerability, which I also would offer as the most power, the most access to the whole self, is it can be devastating. And that it doesn't surprise me. And thank you for sharing, that personal experience, that like, this is the thing that kind of is one of the hardest places. And and also to go off track, I can share that, as I think I just mentioned, I didn't have that specific thing in my marriage, but I know that in my own journey of having had eating disorders and being an assault survivor and all of that trajectory of the body and the image, being an empowerment coach, the last frontier was always sexuality for me. It was always, okay, well, you know, I'll be this, but I'm still going to drape the sheet over that, or I'm still going to turn the light out, or yeah, I know, you know. So that this is so it's deep, it's tender, it's profound. So on that exact note, you know, when a woman or anyone is recovering from a difficult divorce or is at a place of vulnerability, the very first thing I would say is be gentle.
Yeah,
it's like just be gentle. And this is about, it's about reestablishing, or maybe establishing for the first time, a different relationship with you. And, you know, in that same way that we just instinctively know when we're holding a kitten or a little bird or a baby, we're quiet, you know, and we don't grip, we don't push away, we don't even have ideas about what's right or wrong. There's just this gentle acceptance of what is. And that to be able to do that with yourself, especially in the middle of what could be a painful time, or equally in bed with the person that you know you love, but this is the first time you've been intimate, or maybe it's the 1000th, and you are feeling an awareness of your tenderness and your vulnerability. The first step is to let that be the first and most important thing. That we're not here to fix you. We're not here to change you. We're here to love you. And when you can bring that experience into you, you bring that into bed. You bring it into your relationship. You bring it into your life. And so, you know, there's 1,000 things to say in terms of, you know, how to overcome that. But if there's going to be that one first step, gentle acceptance, like that radical self-acceptance is in fact what is the big next step, because to actually, and then I'll be quiet, to actually to really accept ourselves and all that we are, that's no small task, because now we also know we're holding bigger space for childhood trauma, relational trauma. We're holding space for what I heard from my 7th grade teacher or the boy that I liked in high school. You know, we are this big experience of ourselves, and that includes, I don't want to be in that shape, or I really do want to be, but I'm embarrassed. I mean, like, to really hold space for all of it, that's a work. That's a process, you know. So that's what I always talk about when I work in my system. We got to start with your body, your biology, like your breathing. Are you hydrated? Did you get exercise? Have you had a good meal? Did you get sleep? Like, that stuff actually counts.
Oh, yeah. That all helps you to be able to heal, like to be able to focus on the healing and focus on the body and focus on yourself. Because if you don't have a good sleep and you don't have good food and you're not moving and you're not getting your vitamin D from the sunlight and you're not doing all those things, you're definitely, it's very difficult. I don't even know how I could have moved forward without the changes that I made when I started healing. And one of them was just walking like 6 miles a day. I just walked everywhere. I walked into my new self, really, is how I always say it. It didn't help that I dropped 20 pounds doing it, but I mean, that wasn't the intention. Really, the intention was just the movement, which just kind of stimulated my brain, got the oxytocin going, got me feeling really good, got me, you know, more positive. And it was like, I just couldn't wait twice a day to get out there and do my big walks with my dog. And that was,
yes. And just for the record, you just pretty much went straight to the heart of the system, or the somatic approach, which is we get out of our head and we get into our bodies.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, it's funny. It's not about exercise. It's not about weight or gaining weight. And that's where it's like a little bit of that, we got to like step back from thinking our way into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mind just wants to say X, Y, and Z. And because there's research that shows over and over again that women's libido goes up when they're exercising. Now,
They're happy. And when you're moving and you're exercising, you feel more happy naturally.
Yeah, yes. And there's dopamine, there's serotonin, there's actual hormones. I'd throw in that we get into our heads that the exercise is for an outcome, or like it has to look a certain way, when in fact, to me, like that big picture of holding the big space for you is, no, it's about you being in your body and getting out of the thinking that you're good or bad, or that you're sexy or you're not sexy.
Yeah, right.
So engaging the GPS system that is your desire map. You know, it's like, and you're like, suddenly, I feel good. I feel good. And that's kind of what I'm here anyway to represent. Like, that's a good thing. Like, I feel good.
I talk to a lot of my clients about that too, and just finding those things that allow you to feel good, that make you feel good, whether it's sitting under a tree. I mean, hopefully it's doing some kind of movement, but I also, when I was going through my healing process, I've talked about this a lot. I danced every single night. I just turned on the music and I stopped listening to mainstream music. I only listened to spiritual music, feel good music. Like Trevor Hall is one of my favorites. I mean, there's so many.
That's so many. Voice.
Yeah. And I would just turn on the music and just dance and just literally close my eyes and just let my body move. And I would get just crazy giddy sometimes. Like I would just start laughing and crying at the same time, and I'm just moving, and it was just release, this huge release. And I think,
it's like, yes, that's like just knowing that it's like that it ain't about what size you are.
Yeah.
You can have the experience of dance and be 300 pounds.
True.
Or you can be, I've facilitated people without arms and legs. Because, and this is the piece that I want to throw in too, that if the idea is that what we're doing is getting into the experience of ourselves, which is in our bodies, right? That can be in all different kinds of forms. My favorite story is, this is an absolute true story. She won't let me name her, but she actually was able to have an orgasm doing puzzles.
Okay. Wow.
Yes. I know. I was like, what?
Okay.
Or the woman whose life changed when she started to horseback ride again, or someone who can feel it during, I'm feeling like or gardening. It's about engagement with your humanity, your humanness, your realness, oh my God, I'm here. This vitality that is in you all the time. So, and dance. Yeah. You and me both. We can have a dance party after this.
Yeah. And I still do that all the time. So in fact, at lunch today, I was making my lunch and I turned on the music and I was like dancing around my kitchen. So it's, and the funny thing is, it's been one of those crazy busy days, but I stopped for a minute and I was looking, it was so beautiful outside, and I started laughing and I just felt so good. And I was like, whoa,
yes.
So
thank you.
Yeah. So thank you. So let's talk about something that we kind of covered some of this stuff, but you mentioned that the body hides the key to healing. And I think we probably already covered that, but maybe there's something more of that. And what we need to learn about our bodies in order to truly love ourselves and heal. And one of the things I know you said was just knowing that we don't have to be a certain number, a certain size. We don't have to fit into some certain mold. We don't have to have this hourglass figure or long, beautiful blonde hair or whatever. But are there other things that we, when you mention hiding the key to healing in the body, I just think that's so fascinating. So I wanted to just kind of maybe take that apart a little more, if that's possible.
Yeah. So I think that we've begun to talk about it.
Yeah.
Which is that when you dance, your body right there is holding the key to your healing, whatever busy, stressed morning you had. So just right there, we don't have to interpret it. At it, right? I would go even further. And so that if there's this experience of your body, right, which is the experience of yourself in any moment, how you're experiencing the moment is actually in your body, meaning how you're feeling. right? And you might be feeling stressed. You might be feeling or a sense of tension. And some of the work is discriminating out actually the different kinds of feelings, emotion versus sensation. But the thing that we usually refer to when we talk about feelings is connected with emotion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this whole thing, this concept of being able to be all that you are at any moment, right? We're making space for you to be who you are, to be that whole, beautiful, perfect one self that you're here to be. Your feelings all are smart. Your feelings all come from the best of you, which is your center and yourself. What I mean by that is you have no feeling that is not also an instruction as well. So things obvious, like what feels good, that's a big yes from your soul. Like, oh yeah, more of that. And there's some discrimination there to do about sometimes what feels good is because it's your fulfilling a desire, maybe a fear desire or an ancestral desire or an avoidance desire. So actually discriminating out what feels good is also a process. But critically, it's also the feeling of sadness, which is how you know what you value. It's a feeling of anger, which is your boundary. It's every emotion that you have, which is a benchmark. It's your keys, it's your codes to your soul's truth. And to be able to sit back in that and not have to justify, to make it fit into anything is a profound awakening opportunity. And so, feelings, your feeling, every single one you have is a key to your one beautiful, perfect soul's true awakening in the one true, perfect body that you are in. And they go together. You don't get the feelings without the body. So, yeah.
Beautifully put. And I agree 100%. And I think when you're starting the healing journey, sometimes there is so many people, so many women I speak with are kind of in this, I call it the victim well. They're in this well and they're just looking up and they can see that light and they want to get there. But the thought of climbing out, little tiny step by little tiny step is sometimes so much for them, and that they don't know where to start. But I love the idea of just being quiet and being gentle, and just because I think once we turn inward, intuition is our guide. What do I need?
Yes.
Who am I? What, why am I here? Those kinds of things. So I love that idea of being gentle and trusting and finding those forms of release that feel good, and recognizing that all the emotions you have are okay because it's who you are.
And even the emotions that you're having are okay and instructional.
Yeah.
So you have to fight yourself. And my other favorite piece about the feeling inquiry is a neurobiologist speaking back about science. Taylor Green. No, I've forgotten her name. If someone wants to know, I'll find out. She did a study to see how long the biochemical response from a negative feeling or a hormone that has a negative feeling, how long it takes the body to actually turn it into a neutral or good feeling. So that when we think about I'm feeling bad, how long does it take for me to feel good? This real curiosity of what does the body actually do? Guess how long it takes for the body to adjust a negative feeling? 60 to 90 seconds.
Oh, wow.
And that there's an understanding that it's the mind that keeps us in the bad feeling. Like I'm going over the thing that I'm upset about, right?
Yes.
Your body actually is like, I'm right here with you. I really want to get you to homeostasis. I'm 24/7. I'm working on homeostasis.
Right.
The reason I love that fact is that we know that when you feel bad, if you fight it and start to tell yourself story about it, your system wants to clear it for you. So sometimes it means and it could be days, it could be months, it could be like grieving, depending what it is, it could be a long time. But when you let yourself lean back in and just be who you are gently with love, you are in a dynamic process. You're actually changing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
330 billion cells are recycled every day. Yeah. In 100 days, you have a new body. Like what? Like that's how brilliant our bodies. Right?
Yeah, and it's interesting. You brought up kind of the interplay between the body and the mind, and then when there's an emotion, when there's a negative emotion, you're hurt, you're sad, you're angry, and a lot of us it's kind of a human reaction sometimes, without, people who haven't done the healing work. I mean, obviously when you do the healing work, you learn a little bit, but we're human. We still do it. We create that story. We create a story around that emotion. And a lot of times the reason that we feel badly is because we keep that story going. And so it's learning how to stop and realize that we are the ones that control the story. So if your story is, I was left, my ex-husband cheated on me, and he took all everything, and I'm renting an apartment now and I have nothing, and you keep living in that muck, in that story, you're never going to get out of that story. But when you realize you can change that story, like, okay, there's something good in everything bad that happens. There's some outlook we can find, something we can find. And so like when my son calls me up and says, hey, I had this horrible day at work, blah, 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 starts going on, and I stop. I'm like, what happened that was good today? Focus on that. What happened that was good? Something good happened today. I mean, you woke up, you're here, you're breathing, the sun came out, So, yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. And what hope that you offer. I think that when bad things happen, or when we have divorces, or we feel stuck, know that there's actually another model for that. To know that, oh, wait, like what? That I can reframe and tell a different story is
right.
That's profound.
And a lot of people, they've heard those things before. They've heard you're in control of your life. You're the one who can change it, but sometimes when we're in that victim mentality, it's really hard to stop and think about that and what does that mean? And that's what I hope people do. But I mean, once you figure that out, there's no limit. I mean, you're here, you're in your body in this life, you're blessed, you're in this, whatever your body looks like, or whatever you perceive your body to look like, you are lucky to have that body. You're lucky to be here. You're blessed. And I know that sounds cliche, but really, I think when we start the focus there, and how can if there's something I don't like, or I don't want to be living in this apartment, or I don't like this job I'm doing, it doesn't make me feel good. I mean, make a change. Start with the baby steps. So you can't just go from, this bottom step, like, oh, my job is horrible, to wanting to be the CEO of a company, right? You have to, maybe you have to go back to school. Maybe you have to get a license, or maybe you have to mentor. I mean, whatever it is, but there are always ways to get to that higher plateau.
I love that. I love the open that. Yes. I mean, so much of the work that I do is about allowing or making space for the entirety of the moment, in the body, which means sometimes, right, just what I'm saying, what we were saying is that right now I'm so angry. It's like, okay, just can we allow that for a moment?
Yeah.
Can we make space for that, right?
100%.
And because I believe that when we do, then the hope can come and the change can come. And I'm so grateful to you for seeing what is also true, which is that we can change. We can, and actually it's that we genuinely have sovereignty over what is inside. And that's, exactly going back to where we began, that, we can understand some of the science of body perception. We can understand that, oh, this is why I got to this place.
Yeah.
And when I talk about that evolutionary reality of like vision, What is also true is over millions of years of evolution is we have self-awareness, we have consciousness that is apparently maybe different than most other animal species, so that we get to choose. We can choose to say, my body is not what it looks like. I can choose.
So powerful.
Right? To say, this thing that maybe the world around me is saying what a disaster the divorce is, but I can choose to say, it's the beginning of something. It's a resurrection, or,
And the world might be saying what a disaster your divorce is, but they're not you. You're the one who lived it, and you have an opportunity to come through this and make this beautiful new life. Who do you want to be? What do you want to be? It's all up to you. I just got the chills. But I know that is true. And I've helped people realize that. And obviously it all started by me realizing that. And that's so powerful to realize that you have the ability to choose, like you said. I love that. And it's one of my favorite things to say. Everything's a choice, oh, well, he did this to me. No, things don't happen to you. You have to make things happen for you. There's a difference, you have that ability. I mean, even a prisoner who's in a jail cell, they don't have the ability to get up and walk out, but they have their mind, they have their imagination.
I used to teach, actually, and it was it was my favorite place to teach. It was yoga and meditation for vets and Maximum. I did a whole, and it was one of my favorite places because of that very thing, because there was no distraction of, do my Lululemons look good on me? Or, where am I going to go afterwards? Or what does she think about me? Or whatever. It was like, okay, what are we going to do with this moment? How are we going to find some relief in this moment? How are we going to make this existence that I'm in tolerable, and maybe even a fraction of a little bit more peaceful? Or
It's interesting because, in a way you had a captive audience, but that's kind of where we all want to get to, is those people that are there and they can't leave, and you're leading them into this little bit of serenity, this little bit of like leading into yourself.
An agency.
And we all need to get there. And if those people can get there who are locked up, we can certainly get there, because we have freedom. We have freedom to go outside and walk on the beach or by the shore, in the park or in the forest or whatever. We have freedom to take deep breaths outside, or sit and listen to the rain on the roof. Whatever it is, we can make those choices. And I love that. Yeah. Yes.
I feel, I'm not sure when this is going to air or where we are in time, but, I think there's a lot of chaos around us on the planet and and my personal feeling or belief is that this is an opportunity for us all to kind of lean back into the experience of ourselves and find appreciation for what's around us, get clear about what the life that we want to create here.
Exactly.
Then make choices about non-action.
This has been so wonderful. Thank you. It really, I think the more you talk about it, hopefully the more, people who listen to this, they'll realize that they do have those choices, and it all starts here. We're in this body one time. So,
isn't that a miracle? Never before has your body existed. Never will.
And and your body's amazing. Like, there's, I'm only human. Sometimes, I was on a vacation last summer with my beloved, and I was putting on a bathing suit, and I was thinking like, oh gosh, things are kind of not as tight as they used to be and whatever. But then I just stopped and realized, I'm like, this body gave me 2 children. This body has traveled the world. This body has loved and lived, and and oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for that. It doesn't matter that there's a wrinkle or a saggy skin, or I had my time when I had the young taut body, and I'm actually more happy now. So
we could get a whole nother round, because I was an anorexic model and I hate body, and and so appreciate your saying that. And if I may, I know I don't know if we're over time, but I just want to throw in for those of us who have experienced trauma in the body, that this optimism may feel really far away.
Yeah.
Because the idea even of being able to be in our bodies is terrifying and uncomfortable. And that's a real thing that we can't think our way out of. Yeah. That this thing of actually being able to engage in our bodies is a process that we may have to give time and space to be able to actually do, because I can't be in my body. It's because of bad things that have happened to it or bad things I've experienced. Right. And so.
Yeah. And also if you are, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go. I just want to acknowledge
I was just going to say, if you are in that place, then that's the time where you should seek some help. Because I think even with people that don't have body trauma but are going through divorce, sometimes they think they can figure it all out on their own, and they, sit around for a while and I'm healed, and then they go out and date, and then they attract these partners that aren't the partners they would attract had they done the healing right, because then they would have become their highest and best version of themselves and attracted a totally different partner. And so the whole process for me is not just about trying to make it work. Most of the time you need some help. And when you've had those traumatic issues to your body, I definitely think you can't do it on your own. You need some help getting started and knowing what to do and having a guide to show you those things. So, yeah. So,
thank you. I just want to acknowledge, because
I'm so glad you did.
Feel so optimistic and so hopeful. And I'm like, yay! And then I also, that hasn't always been available to me.
Yeah, for sure, and to a lot of people as well. But thank you. This has been such a beautiful conversation, and I'm going to put all of your links so people can contact you here at the end on the video version of the podcast on YouTube. And then for the people listening on the audio, one of the audio channels, all of those will be in the show notes. And if you can't find it or you want some further, please reach out to me and I will be happy to share Janet's contact information with you. And
was
that?
It's just put my name, Janet Farnsworth, and I will
into Google or whatever search engine you choose. Google's in a lot of trouble right now, but thank you for being here. It's really been a wonderful conversation. Again, I feel like we could have gone off on several different things and talked for a long, long time. So maybe I'll have you back in time and we can talk about some other topics. But thank you for sharing your wisdom and your light. Yeah.
You're doing it this whole series. Just thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, we're going to have a lot of great information. And I hope, because I know this is one of the biggest fears for a lot of people, especially women, is going back out and having intimate relations, having sex again after divorce. And we're talking about that and helping you figure out how to do it. I get there.
Thank you. Beautiful. Yes. This deep, important work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet. I really appreciate having you here.
Thank you.